Hey guys, Darren Collier, Coach of Wise Pods, and welcome back to the return of trade mode for the 2025 fantasy season. If you're new around here, this is my season-long series where every week I will be talking about all the popular trade options, whether that's you trading out or trading in. We run through all the different options that you should be looking at. I try and give a few different, situations based on teams, like popular teams with their structures and whatnot. So hopefully, I can cover off on what you should probably be doing based on your team structure. But let's get straight into it and try and keep this video as short as possible. So I'll start with the trader options. I think this is probably the easiest area that we can start as, because at the end of the day, we all sort of know where our problem areas are. This time of year, we're purely focusing on cash generation. So it's pretty simple to go through, okay, look at my entire team, who's making money, who's not making money, who can go. So obviously, if they're not making money, it's time for them to go. So that's why Harry Perryman is at the top of the list of who people are trading out at the moment, with 15.6k players or coaches trading him out. Now, obviously, he had a pretty poor game, again a 49 score on the weekend, in where he was tagging Jason Horne-Francis and Rosie at Port Adelaide. So it's very disappointing from what we sort of saw. He scored that pretty nice. I think it was 90 against GWS in round zero, and he looked like he was going to go up a fair bit of coin, but obviously he destroyed all that with that low score. So what are we doing with him now? I think it's a very aggressive play to be trading him out, and I'm not against it. I think it's a very good play. If your team's in that sort of scenario where you can trade him out and you don't have bigger issues, then absolutely do it. I have no issues with that. I just think there's a few other areas that we have over a Perryman at this point in time. Just with a lot of popular teams, we have a lot of guys like Garcia, Sanders, Will Day, stuff like that. So even a Taylor, who we'll talk about in a second, there's a lot of other guys that I'd probably put in front of him that require being traded out before a Harry Perryman. Because at the end of the day, he's coming up against Western Bulldogs this week. He's unlikely to tag, so I think that he could go back to being this inside mid that can obviously hunt the ball, get lots of tackles, and provide points on field for us. And there's every chance that he can break that 92 break even that he's got on his head at the moment. So I'm probably in the camp of holding him at this point in time, just because, quite frankly, my team has a few more issues that I need to address, and that sort of leads me into the next man, Sam Taylor. He's in my team currently, and obviously I picked him as a 1 week play, gain the cash that he was going on his head. We obviously knew he was going to make. He made 83k, and now it's time for him to move on, because at the end of the day, he's not making money for us this week at all. He's not playing, so he's got to make $0. And I guess that's the toss up you got to make is the money that he's not going to make. He's not going to lose money. He's not going to make money. He's going to make $0 this week. Whereas a Perryman, there's potential he can go either way. He could make some money, he could lose some money. Probably leaning to he's going to lose some money. So that's probably where I'm seeing a lot of people are looking to trade out a Perryman first before trading a Sam Taylor. But I'm in the way of that. I want to get these points on field as quick as possible. And if it costs me, 10, 15k from a Harry Perryman this week, then I'm happy to sacrifice that for the extra points that I'm probably going to get by upgrading a Sam Taylor to someone that is going to be playing this week, which in most cases will either be an SDK or a Fraser, or even just going down to a rookie that is going to be generating cash for us as well. So that's my understanding of it. So if you have Sam Taylor, absolutely, I'd be looking to trade him out. You locked yourself into these sort of trades, so you're absolutely trading him this week. At most, you're trading him next week. I don't think you're holding him anymore. Even though he scored the 47 and he's got a low break even of 40, he's not going to make a huge amount of coin from here. Maybe make 20k, 30k at most. There's every chance that his cash generation even just absolutely stalls, because he's up against Hawks next week. That could be a pretty bad score. It could drop a 30, and then he's even losing money. So I think you've done your play. You picked him. It's up for debate whether it's a smash pick or it's a failed pick. I'm sort of sitting in the middle. It's not really either, in my opinion. You've just guaranteed you've got that cash generation, and now you have to use a trade to get him out. So yeah, absolutely be trading him out. He's my number one guy that you need to be trading out this week. That leads me into Hugo Garcia, who is third on the list of being traded out this week by 5.8k coaches. He is probably a bit hard done by, in my opinion. Like, I understand he had a pretty bad score of that 59, and he did save that quite late with, I think, with like a 29-point last quarter. But at the end of the day, he still has a quite low break even of 29, so he's going to make it coin. He's got a great matchup against Geelong Cats this week. We know they love to give up points, particularly to midfielders, which Hugh Garcia is at this point in time. His role looked fine, like he was still the third CBA taker at St Kilda. The concern was just that he wasn't scoring well and he just didn't have much time on ground, which was too expected, to be honest. We always knew that his time on ground was going to be low, and there is some sort of risk that he could potentially be subbed out at some point, or I don't think he starts as a sub. I just don't think that's in his role. I think he's better than that now. There's a few other rookies in the team at the moment which would be starting a sub before him. It's just if they're looking tired and they're wanting to change a few things up, there is potential he could be subbed out. So he is an issue, but I don't think he's this week's issue, as he's still going to make some money for you. And so I'm looking at holding him there if you have him. I unfortunately don't have him. Lockie Ash is an interesting one because a lot of people jumped on him for that cash generation. He did make 50k, so you can call that a win. He's now got a break even of 81, which is above what he typically averages around that sort of 75 to 80 mark. So you can say his break even is now above what he averages most years. So in most cases, I think he's a trader. He's not a keeper for the year. He's no longer making you money. He's not going to be playing this week. So why are you having on your bench? You might as well trade him out. Get those points on field. Get the cash generation from an SDK or a Fraser or whoever you're jumping to from that price. And then keep moving forward. So he's absolutely one I'd be jumping off of if you already have him or if you selected him this at the start of the season. Pretty plain and simple. I just don't see an avenue where he's going to be increasing his average much more than what he already did. So I know that game was wet and that's why he scored a bit lower than usual, but I just don't see how he's going to be a keeper for us this year. James Leake, the rookie, scored just the 14 points in his second game this year. Did make the 18k, so it is probably a bit of a failed pick, and that's sort of why we didn't pick him at the end of the day, while most people didn't. Obviously, scored the 42 last week, where he was playing a bit midfield, but Tom Green back in that side absolutely just cut his role. Luckily, didn't get subbed out, I don't think, in that game. But yeah, just didn't get amongst it at all. 3 touches, 1 tackle, and one of them was a free kick for as well. So 14 is not what you want. He's now stored all his cash generation, and he is a prime target to be one of those rookie fix-ups. So jumping off him and going to the likes of a trainer or going to a Zach Reed in that sort of price bracket, you may can cash that way. So that is definitely a high priority target for me. And if you have him, you just need to jump off these sort of guys that are still with their cash generation, particularly the rookies. Connor Stone is a bit of an interesting one because he's not sort of in that sort of zone that he's still his cash generation. He's gone 50 and 40, so he's going to be a slow burn, but we always knew that. He's made the 51k so far, but I still think he's got plenty of cash generation to go. He's still got a low break even of 6, so I'm in the camp of holding him this week. I think it's a bit of a waste of a trade jumping off him at the moment. I understand the avenue of what people are doing though with jumping off him and going to a Max Hall, who I'll mention in the trade-in video, the trade-in side of things, that obviously has the lowest break-even of the competition right now. But I just don't think you're getting the upside there too much. Hall is probably more than likely to be a sub or be dropped from the team very shortly. So you're running the risk there, whereas you've got someone who's probably best 22 every single week. There's no one coming back for them at all, so he's going to be in their best side. Yes, it's going to be a slow burn, and he's not going to make any money this week, but he'll definitely be back next week and generating some cash. So save the trade. You've got other issues over a Stone, in my opinion, so don't look to trade him out. Hasty is an interesting one because obviously he got subbed out at halftime, which on 40 points at halftime, you think that's amazing. He's good to go, but unfortunately did get subbed out. So there is obviously that risk. 39% time on ground is not what you want. So I'd probably let team selection really make a decision on this one for you. If he's named back in the side again, then I'd be running it because he has such a good matchup against Geelong. I, I think he can make some coin, and obviously shown he has a capacity to score in that halfback role particularly. So I'd let team selection really make that decision for you. If you can hold on to him, save the trade, he's going to make coin uh, next week. But if he's your only rookie that isn't performing well, then I do see the avenue of people jumping off him, particularly if you're moving to a Lindsay or an Ashcroft, uh, or even a Max Hall if you're playing him in the midfield. There's so many rookies that went super well on the weekend that we need to prioritize getting in to get these cash generation going that are less likely to be the sub over the likes of a Hasty. So I can see the avenue of doing that. But yeah, ultimately let team selection make that call for you. If he's named on the field, then I'd probably look at holding him if you can, because I think it's a bit of a waste of trade. Any of these rookies could go pretty poorly very quickly, whereas a Hasty, we could be looking at trading him in as early as next week if he plays a full game and he scores like an 80 or something like that. So yeah, it's all swings and roundabouts for these sort of rookies. But yeah, just look out for that one there. Xavier Harvey Langford is a bit of a. I think just have jump off. I think it's pretty straightforward. He scored the 16 after starting as the sub. He's an elevated price tag. It's break even to 42 now, so I think it's just one you got to jump off. It's a classic rookie fix up. So you're probably just jumping from him to his teammate in a Lindsay is pretty straightforward. It's going to cost you 50k, but if you've planned quite well with your starting lineup, you probably have 50k just sitting there on your bench anyway, just to allow for these fix ups. If not, you can probably make that sort of Harry Perriman down to an SDK or something like that to make that a little bit of cash to be able to make that move. So absolutely move him on. Riley Sanders is probably one of the biggest issues I have on my list in terms of trade outs, because he looked quite bad in that game. He scored 72 in the game, which doesn't sound too bad, but he did rely on kicking 2 goals pretty late in that game to rely on that score. And this is again against North Melbourne, which is quite an easy team to score against. So if coming up against a tougher team, then it could definitely look pretty dire, and he probably could lose coin. So, and the other thing was that his role didn't look good. He started in the midfield where he was sort of playing as that third or fourth midfielder, equal with what's his name? It always escapes me. Matthew Kennedy. So wasn't the smack bang being that third midfielder in there as we sort of expected. He was sort of playing as a third equal fourth midfielder there, and then even got moved out of the midfield in the second half, and they let Fraser go in there. Fraser, I don't know how you say it. That's just what I'm going with. So there is a lot of concern that there's potential that he just plays this half forward role, and then that obviously reduces what his scoring output's going to be. So I'd potentially, if you don't have any other issues and you've already got the major rookies that you want to get, I'd absolutely be looking to trade him out. He does have a fair bit of money on his head at 660k, so you could find your way up to the likes of a Rankin or a Jason Horne-Francis if you want to explore those areas, or you go down and you find a cheaper option that's going to be making coin, which I will talk about soon. So I do think he is one of the major issues that a lot of people do have in their teams. He is 40% owned, so that is obviously one that you need to address very shortly. Finn O'Sullivan, I do not recommend trading him out. Yes, he didn't have the greatest scoring ability on the weekend with a 51. I just think that there is potential that he is going to be much better than that very shortly. He's going to be a bit of a slower burn, but break him into 21, he's absolutely going to hit that each and every week. He has awesome job security, and I think he can quite easily hit 70s very shortly. So I'm not looking to trade him out, but I can see the avenue of other people just doing it, just because he probably was the worst performing rookie in their midfield currently. So I can understand that, but I do not recommend trading him out, because every chance, like the other rookies, he drops to 70, 80 this week, then you're looking to trade him back in next week, and you've burnt 2 trades getting him in and out. So I just stick fat with that one until he's absolutely burnt his cash generation, or he looks like he's going to be the sub. Then you move off of him. But for now, I'm not looking at wasting a trade there at all. Finn Callahan, people jumping off, obviously, because it is his buy. He's made the 55k from the opening round. Obviously went big, 110, and in the 92 from last week. I think that's just what he's going to be. He's just going to be sort of a 90 to 95 sort of guy for the rest of the year. So he probably does have a bit more cash generation to go. But again, he's not going to be a keeper for the rest of the year. Obviously, we saw with the likes of Tom Green back in the side, it did take a few possessions off of him here and there, and it didn't allow him to get the tackles, the goals that we sort of saw the week prior. Also, he had a pretty significant drop in time on ground, which is a bit disappointing. So yeah, I can see the avenue of why people are jumping off. You just take the cash and running with it and getting those points back on field for this week. So I don't mind that. That's definitely something that I'd explore. So if you have him, look at doing that. He's 25% owned. So yeah, definitely could hurt you this week if you don't have those points on field. Lloyd Meek, if you started with him after his big round 0 score, then yeah, you're definitely regretting that one. It's absolutely just jump off ship. He's got a high break even now of 107. He only made the 6K, so it's pretty much a failed pick. And if you don't have the likes of TDK, I'd be going there. If you did start a TDK and you started Lloyd Meek alongside him, then you're kind of in no man's land realistically, because you need 200 to 300k to get up to the top dogs in a Gorn or a Cherry. I just don't know if there's anyone particularly that you could go to. Maybe a Sweet if you wanted to explore those sort of areas. That's probably the only other avenue I'd look at. But yeah, honestly, I haven't looked at the ruck options a huge amount in terms of trade-ins, because yeah, I think most people have gone with TDK and with either a Cherry or a Gorn as their R1. So definitely have to jump off Meek there. Royal Marshall, if you started him, absolutely bought ship. He's looking very tired and sore, and obviously is playing a full forward role at the moment. So he is not scoring many points at all. So he is going to drop coin massively. Already dropped the 50k last week, and now he's going to probably even drop even quicker than that if he scores poorly again this week. So jump off. Go to those cheaper guys. Like I said, you're probably even saving a bit of money going to Gorn at the moment, or maybe it's pretty much break even. So jumping off and going there is probably where I'd recommend. If not, going to a TDK for a short bit of cash generation. Just quickly going through a few more. Hewitt, yep, jump off. He didn't look pretty good in that. He didn't look good in that game at all. 47. He's not making cash generation, and downgrading him to a hull gets you 70, 80k. 60k. So definitely one I'd be looking to go there. Max Krasinski scored the 29, so he's killed all his cash generation, so definitely jump off station there. Classic rookie fix up. Sid Draper as well. It sucks because he can be such a good scorer for us if he gets to be in the main side and not subbed, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. He looks great in that sub vest, and he makes such an impact coming on in that late in the half, so I think this is going to be him for a little while. So jump off for now, and then we'll look to jump on when he does break into the team at some stage this year. Will Day is a very interesting one, and it's definitely someone I've floated looking at trading out, because it's a mixed bag of, are you thinking he's going to be a keeper for the year? I personally don't think he's going to be that guy. I think he can be a 90 to 95 sort of averaging player for us. I think his impact is definitely one of the best in terms of, being an impactful player in the AFL. But in terms of fantasy, I just don't know if he has the capacity to be, 110, 105 averaging player for us. He's going to cop a lot of attention, as we all know. So he's going to probably drop, a lot of 70s and 80s for the next couple of weeks, particularly against Bedford in round 3. Then even after his bye, he's got Port Adelaide, he's got Drew coming to him, and even against the Cats, he probably has O'Connell or an Atkins. So it does not get any easier after his bye. So you're either trading him this week and getting one step ahead of the comp for the already, because a lot of people will look to jump off him next week after probably a bit of a nicer matchup against Colton this week, where he probably won't get as much attention. He may get a run with role with Hewitt, but a lot of people will jump off him next week. So if you can jump off him this week, get one step ahead of the competition, and then you can address other issues next week, then you're already one step ahead, and then you can keep moving one step ahead of the competition, which is absolutely something I recommend, because that can just keep you moving forward. And obviously, you always want to keep one step ahead of the competition, because then you're just making the right decisions, and you can be the beneficiary of bidding on the next player earlier and getting off these players that we want to jump off of. So definitely look at doing that one if you are not keen on a Will Day, or particularly all your midfielders you're pretty happy with. Then you could definitely look at downgrading a Will Day to the likes of a Lindsay, who I know not many people started. That does free up 500k ish for you. So then it's probably an avenue of, okay, can I do a rookie fix up in maybe the forward line and maybe upgrade a Hewitt to a Rankin is definitely someone I'd explore. I'll talk about him a little bit in my trade-in section, but yeah, definitely want something I'd recommend. Ollie Hollands, I probably wouldn't look at trading out just yet. I think what we saw on the weekend is definitely not a true potential of what he's going to be able to do this year. I do think he's still going to make quite a bit of cash from here, probably 200k at minimum. I just think we need to see it one more week to see if it's something that they can sustain. Hawks this week isn't going to be an easy matchup, but if Hawks get on top, then they could definitely look at chipping it around a fair bit in the back half. So I'm looking at holding him, and I recommend you do the same. Lockie Whitfield, yeah, if you started him, I don't think you're trading him out. You picked him to be a keeper for the year, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't know why you've done that, but definitely if you're keeping him for the year, then you're not trading him out. I think it's a bit of a waste of a trade because you're probably going to bring him back in at some stage anyway. So just keep him. Yes, you're going to take a bit of a points hit this week. Yes, he's probably going to drop a bit of coin next week, but if you're holding him for the entire year, you're not really looking at that cash at all. He's going to have lows and highs in his average and his pricing cycle, so you're not too worried about it. So I'd be holding there. I think it's a bit of a waste of trade. Will Ashcroft is hard one for me to judge too much because I was never hot on this guy in the preseason, and I know a lot of people were. He is 16% owned currently, but he does have the West Coast Eagles coming up, so I'd probably just look at holding him. I think you have bigger issues in your team currently over the likes of an Ashcroft whose role looked fine. He didn't have the third CBA effect that we sort of expected, but absolutely he could definitely pop off this week and have an easy 100 game, and then his break even's back where you want it to be. So I'd look to keep him. He does have a pretty good run to come up, so give him one more week. If he doesn't do what your expectations are, then look to jump off him there. Reed, jump off. Sardis, jump off. Sam Wicks, definitely jump off. They've done all that you sort of expected. Bo Allen, yeah, I don't know why he started him. He didn't play. Weird decision. I think that's probably about it, to be honest. He's getting to a bit of a niche areas of everyone's team. We'll move over to the trade-in targets. So quickly, just to summarize, I did forget to do this. My main trade-out target. So Sam Taylor is definitely my number one trade-out target this week. You locked yourself into this sort of scenario that you started him. I think you got to get those points on field, so absolutely look to trade him out this week. I think it's a pretty easy swap to an SDK and a Fraser, as I've said. Rookie fix-ups is number two. Quite simply, if you have a rookie that you're not happy with or that isn't going to be generating much cash in the next couple of weeks, we went through a lot of them there. Jump off them, get to the guy that is going to be making coin. We have plenty of options in each and every line, so definitely something to do there. Riley Sanders is my number three. I just think the role didn't look great. His scoring potential isn't quite there in the role that he's going to be playing as a half forward. And obviously the guys that are coming back pretty shortly, I think 2 or 3 weeks time, that's obviously going to make him a bit of a sub-risk very shortly. So while it's not an absolutely must trade this week, he's definitely someone that you want to address fairly shortly, and I don't think he's going to be making much coin in the next couple of weeks, so you might as well jump off if you don't have many other issues. Harry Perriman is a little bit down there at number 4 for me, even though he is the number 1 traded out player so far. I do think, like I said, it is a very aggressive trade, but I think he goes much better this week and possibly even hits his break even. So I'm willing to give it one more week, and I think for points on field purposes, I'm willing to give it one more week. And Hugo Garcia, I've had him at the bottom of the list there, just because he's not going to be a massive scorer. The role looked fine, but the next fixture is fine. But yeah, there is some concerns there. So if you can jump off him, at some stage, there's definitely have plans to do that. Obviously, I didn't list the guys like Ash and Leak and all these sort of they're included in the rookie fix-ups. But yeah, definitely feel like I've covered a lot of the other issues. I didn't include the ruckman because I think a lot of the popular teams already have the main ruck setup that you want to have. It's a bit of a niche area to have these sort of guys down there. So I will now move into the main trade in targets. And obviously, number one, 23K are trading in Sam De Koning, which is a bit mind blowing. 5 people are trading him out, which is very unusual. But yeah, he went massive in that game against Fremantle there. Didn't have the greatest role, I must say. I must put that up as a flag instantly. He had less than 50% time ruck time in that game, but what he was able to do was he was able to float back and take a lot of the chip mark around the halfback. So that was impressive to see, but he also got the extra 18 hitouts. He was around the ball, so he was able to get 25 disposals in there. Obviously, 5 marks and a couple tackles was very nice as well. Not expecting that each and every week, but I probably expect he can probably hit an 80 most weeks, even in a tougher matchup. So I'm pretty confident with him there. But I do see him being a issue quite shortly because he does have tougher matchups in Rowan Marshall and Harry Boyd this week. So double ruck matchup. Be interesting to see how they go ahead and if that changes his role in any way. But definitely worth a look and see, particularly if you started him. Could be a bit of a worry if you're looking to trade him in, but I think with a low break even, it's a very minimal risk. He probably goes up 50, 60k this week at minimum if he hits a 60 or 70 at his floor. And that's sort of what we saw him do last year, where he had this 5 game stretch in this sort of role. He was able to hit these 90 averages. So yeah, I think he's a good one to trade in. He's going to make a lot of coin, but he's definitely not a keeper for the year. Xavier Lindsay is my number one trade-in target, I believe. I think a lot of people started with an Ashcroft already, but not many people started with a Lindsay, so everyone's looking to jump on him. He looked amazing in that game. Scored the 94 in a very wet weather game, so if it's not so wet, he definitely could be a lot better. But again, you got to remind yourself that he is on the wing, so his scoring is going to be quite volatile every now and then. But the break even of -11, he's going to skyrocket in price. Probably make 70k this week, so absolutely you need to jump on him there. It's definitely a priority. Along with Levi Ashcroft, I'd probably have Levi Ashcroft above the likes of Lindsay, just because I think his scoring capacity is probably going to be a bit more consistent and his ceiling's probably a lot higher. Obviously, scored the 84 on the weekend in a half forward role. So yeah, if he gets some opportunity through the midfield, then he would absolutely be one that you're confident with fielding each and every week. So that's my reasoning why I target Ashcroft over the likes of Lindsay, just because I feel a bit more comfortable with having him on field over the likes of a Lindsay, even though Ashcroft probably doesn't have the job security of a Lindsay at the moment. So both of them are great targets. If you don't have either, I'd make a priority to get both of them because these two can absolutely destroy your season. Because these guys are probably going to be guys that we have on our team for the first 10 weeks of the season. And yeah, that would be pretty bad if you don't have either of them and you're running one of these other midfield rookies that aren't going to be scoring as many points as them. It's points on points every single week that you're going to be losing out to them, and plus the cash generation that you're already looking at. So make a priority to get these guys in. Joel Frazier is an interesting one for me because if it's a game of two halves, as I've said, he had the first half where he played a bit of half-back, half-forward role. He's only had the 30 points at half-time, but then he went into the midfield in the second half, and he scored like a 30 and 40-point quarter, which got him to that 103. So I would like to have a bit of clarity about what role he's going to have. Because if he's going to have the halfback role, I'm not keen. But if he has this midfield role, then absolutely I'd be all board. But I don't think we're going to get some clarity. But with a low break even of 34, he's going to make some decent coin this week. It's a pretty easy option to get to from, a Harry Perryman or a Sam Taylor. So I think it's a pretty straight swap. You're just going there, getting the cash generation. Yes, he probably becomes a bit of an issue in the probably 3 or 4 weeks' time when he sort of maxes out in coin. But definitely one I think is worth jumping on for now. Safety in numbers, 20% owned. Yeah, definitely something that I'm looking at myself. So I do like that there. I would love to have more clarity about what his role is going to be because I do think it's going to be a bit of an issue very shortly if his role doesn't stay consistent. And all we know is consistency is key with these players. Maxwell is in my top 5 of trade-in targets, and it's probably a bit of a luxury trade if you can get him in because you probably don't have too many other issues in your team. So definitely one worthwhile jumping on. He does have the lowest break even in the competition at the moment, so he's going to go up a lot in coin. The only risk I see with him is that there's potential that he could be could be dropped at any point. I think Ross Lyon, even in his press conference, wasn't super hot on him, even though he did some nice things. Kicked 2 goals in that 82 he scored, and that was in a thrashing against Adelaide Crows. So yeah, there is concerns there, but I think with the cash generation he's going to make in next week, as long as he's named, absolutely jumping on him if you can. Tom de Koning, yep, if he started with a ruck that you weren't happy with a Meek or a Marshall, a Darcy Cameron, absolutely jumping on him there. He's going to make a lot of coin in the next couple of weeks while Pitnet is out. But again, it's not going to be a long-term thing. It maybe gets you 4 or 5 weeks in, and then you're looking at trading him out anyway. But in those 4 or 5 weeks, hopefully he makes 100 to 200k, and then it's a pretty straight swap from him to the likes of a Max or a Cherry at the top of the line there. So, or even going to the likes of a Briggs, who's going to be cheap for us at that sort of time as well. So there's lots of different options. I think he's a great pick to jump on there. Mitch Nevitt, the guy that got away from me this year. I wish I started him after being so bullish on him all preseason. But nevertheless, he is a great trade-in target. A 2 break-even, so single digits. Scored the 103 on the weekend in a pretty solid role as the sort of third midfielder for Geelong. I wish he wasn't named on the bench because I would have him on my team, but what are we expecting from him for the remainder of this, period of the season? He had low time on ground, so that was impressive to see that he was able to score quite well, even if it was in low time on ground. 11 tackles is probably a little bit unsustainable, but that was sort of what his role is gonna be. He was sort of that main tackling guy in there, where the likes of a Holmes and a Tom Stewart probably more of those distributors by foot. So he's the one getting in and under, getting the tackles, and trying to get the ball out to them as best he can. So that's just what his role's going to be. So if you can grab him, I think he's a great option. He's going to be good cash generation for the beginning part of the year. He's below 500k. He's lowly owned, so he definitely is a bit of a pod there. And he's going to be putting points on field for you as well. So I guess the question mark is, do you go him or a Nod, who I think is a lot more highly owned. I think he's about 30% at the moment. If you didn't start with either of them, then I'd probably go with the likes of Nod, in my opinion. I think he just has more avenues of scoring, whereas Free are probably a bit more consistent. It's a tough one to really split because at the end of the day, I don't think Nevitt's being pushed out of this midfield anytime soon, whereas an O'Driscoll could be pushed out of midfield with Hayden Young returning in a couple of weeks. So it is a bit of a toss-up here and there, but both scored very well. But if you want to just go with a lower break-even, then absolutely just go with Nevitt here. Bailey Smith, if you didn't have him, you got to make him a priority to get in. He's a keeper for the year, so jump on him at best you can. It's pretty plain and simple. You got to make that a priority. Luke Trainer, if you're jumping off of and doing a bit of a rookie fix-up in the defensive line, he is definitely one I recommend. He has a bit of an elevated price tag of 308 now, but he definitely looked pretty good in that game. And again, if Richmond aren't as competitive in the next coming weeks, he could be a better scorer, I think, in those games. I do expect him to get better as they go along. Simkin, it's a tough one because he obviously scored great and he had a great preseason. I just don't know if I consistently see him being this guy that can put up 30 disposals in a mostly half-forward role. He only had the 9 CBAs in that game, which was a very highly contested game, so I don't think that's going to be something that can sustain each and every week. He was sort of the 5th midfielder behind the likes of LDU, Power, Luke Parker, and then Sheasel was in front of him, as well. And even the likes of a Phillips was there alongside him. Obviously got subbed out tactically. But they also have George Wardlaw that's looking to return in the next couple of weeks as well. So I don't think his role is going to be sustainable at that elevated price of 820k. I just don't think he's going to be that sort of price. And when you're considering that you're paying up an extra, I think 20k to go to a Rankin, I'd definitely go to Rankin, who's more likely going to be a keeper for us for the year over the likes of Simcom. So that's just my thoughts there. I wouldn't be doing that. Caldwell, I would not be paying up for him at this time of year. You know, he's got a bye coming up, so that's a round that you're going to have without him on field. And you're already paying over $1 million, so it's not like you're getting him cheap at all. While he could potentially push top 8 midfielders for the year, I just don't know if I see that consistently. He already has Zach Merritt alongside him, who has traditionally been a top 8 midfielder, so I don't think he can have both of them in there. I think it was just a peak game for him. The 11 tackles is not going to be sustainable. Kicked a goal and had 36 touches. I just don't see that being consistent. So while it was a good match, I just don't think it's worthwhile. Jack Henry, I don't think you're going here, are you? Had the 14 marks, which is just all red flags that it's not going to be sustainable there. Even though he does have a cheap price of 610k, he is very lowly owned, low break even. St Kilda obviously a very great matchup. I just don't think it's something that's going to be a worthwhile pick. He may make, 50, 60k, but then he could definitely be a very quick issue for you, so I don't think I'm going there at all. Sam Lawler, if you've got free midfielder spots available and you already started with the other major midfielders, then definitely I'd be jumping on him, but I do preference the likes of Lindsay and Ashcroft over them. Even the likes of Camporelli, I'd definitely go there instead of a Lawler. I just don't think he's going to have the scoring potential that we're looking for, and the reason why I didn't start him, he required 2 goals to get to his 68 there. He's probably going to be a 50 guy most weeks, and in a game that they're not going to be as competitive, then he's not going to score as well. So, and his role was pretty bad as well. He was playing mostly half forward or even deep forward at some times, starting in the goal square. So yeah, I don't like the role. I don't think the scoring potential is there. So, and paying that elevated price tag of 368k, I'm just not touching it. So yeah, it's definitely not a bad option, but I think there are better options out there. Like Lucas Camporelli, I think he's very good. Negative 13 break even just goes to show you that he has a lot of job security. He's sort of a cult. I don't know what the right term is, but a cult figure at Colton at the moment. Obviously, father son of what was his name? Is it Brad? Brad Camporelli? I can't remember his dad's name. But yeah, he is a father-son along with his brother who's injured at the moment. So he's got a bit of a cult figure to him. So I don't think his job security is at any risk at the moment. He's played great in both his Pracker games and the opening round. Round 1. Scored the 76 or out in the wing. He's got a low break even. So he's just going to be a very good cash generator for us at that low price. So definitely prioritize getting him in if you didn't start him as well. Zach Reed, again, very similar to a trainer. If you're looking for a defensive rookie, jump on him. I do probably have concerns that he may get dropped because he was very poor in that game against Hawthorn. He butchered the ball like no other. I think, looking at his stats, I think he turned it over at least 10 times in his 11 touches. So, yeah, definitely be concerned there. But, yeah, he's got a low break-even, low price. You can't really go too wrong. While Saligo looked very good in that game, I don't think you can jump on it. I had him last year, and he does have these games where he just absolutely goes ballistic, but he's more of an impact player than he is a fantasy player, even though he does have the keys to that midfield at the moment. I just don't think I can do it. At an elevated price tag at the moment, I just don't think I could do it. Whereas a Rankin, I do highly recommend. He is going to be a keeper for the year in the forward line. So if you can straight swap him from the likes of a Will Day, and then you're making a rookie swap on the other side of that, then I'd absolutely do that. He's going up and going. Scored 107 on the weekend. Did kick 2 goals in that. But yeah, I expect him to be much better in the lead up to the start of the year. And he's probably going to be one that gets away from a lot of people as people are doing rookie fix-ups at the moment. With a good run to start the next 4 weeks particularly. He's probably going to go up at least 40, 50k in the next couple of weeks. So you're going to save that 40, 50k, and then you're also going to save the coin on having to trade him out at some stage because he should be a keeper for the year or close enough to that. So yeah, highly recommend getting him in there. Christian Salem is one I definitely looked at because obviously we got the late news that the likes of May was laid out in that game and does have a fractured voice box. I don't know the technical term to it, but I do want to see what sort of timeline they have on that, because then that does mean Salem does take a main defender role back there and takes a lot of kick-ins. He took 5 kick-ins in this match, which just elevates how much his bottom line is. Being a typically an 80 to 85 averaging player, I think he could tip the scale to closer to that 95, 100, and obviously has a low break even with that's great score. Great run coming up. So definitely someone I've played around with. But yeah, I just need some more clarity on how long this May is going to be out for, which currently on the list here, they have him as a to be continued or to be seen, whatever you want to call it. So there is no timeline as of yet, but he has been ruled out for at least this week. If it was broken, then I'd probably be a bit more bullish on it, but because it's only fractured, it probably means it's only a 2 to 3 week injury, and then he's going to be back, and then Salem's not going to be a keeper from then on out. And I think there's probably just better avenues of getting cash generation, like a Fraser, who has a lower break even at the moment, in an SDK as well. Josh Dunkley, I just don't think you're paying up for these guys at this time of year. You're really trying to hunt value. So unless they're obvious value, and you think they can be a top sort of line guy, then absolutely go there. But I don't think there's much value in a Josh Dunkley. He's already priced over 1.1 million. He is priced at probably 107, I believe, is probably where his price that figure is at the moment. So I just don't see the value. I wouldn't be jumping there, even though he does have a great run coming up for the next 3 weeks, particularly, even a little bit longer than that. I just don't think I could go there. Maybe in a few weeks' time. But yeah, for now, you're really hunting value and getting cash generation. Harry Boyd, if you didn't start him as your R3, I definitely recommend getting onto him. He is going to be a good cash generator. It seems like St Kilda pretty much come out and said that he's going to be their full-time ruckman at this point in time, particularly with Rowan Marshall out with a bit of injury at the moment. He's going to make a lot of coin at R3, so yeah, definitely recommend jumping on him there as a priority. Max Holmes is an interesting one because, again, he could potentially push the top lines of being a top 6 defender for us for this year. Obviously, had 106 on the weekend against Freo in a game that they heavily dominated. He did even get a little bit rested in that game late in that last quarter. I just have concerns with the Geelong game style being that inducive to scoring. I don't think they're going to be scoring that well every single week. Obviously, that was a game they absolutely dominated in. He did require 2 goals in his 106, so I think there's better options at lower prices than I would go to rather than a Holmes at this point in time. But I don't absolutely hate it. A few more here, guys, and then I'll look to finish off the video. Riley Bice, I think, will be one that we can target in a few weeks' time if he can break into the side and be, a starting option for them. If he's going to continue to be the sub, I'll have no interest, obviously. But yeah, obviously a very low price. Showed he has scoring potential, scoring that 35 in only 31% time on ground. Definitely one to keep an eye on in the next couple of weeks as we look to downgrade our defender rookies. But wait, I'm watching that one. Nasai Wengamalira is probably a good example of who I'd look to go to instead of the likes of Max Holmes. Yes, you're paying a little bit more of that price, but I think he's probably a bit of a safer option to be in that top 6 calculations for the year. Had a great start with 113 against the Crows. He's just the main man back there in that defensive line, taking a lot of the kick-ins. And yeah, just soaking up the ball as much as he can, even snuck forward for a bit of a goal and shot at goal in that game. So St Kilda are going to be pretty badly beaten most of this year, so the ball's going to spend a bit of time back there. So all the great signs that show that he is going to be in those calculations. So definitely I can recommend going to pick up him if you have the cash there. Tom Powell is one that I think we've all missed at this point in time. If you don't have many issues and you want to jump off like the Will Day, it's pretty much a straight swap to him, who's going to make a lot more money. His role looked great. Obviously, the North Melbourne outfit is a very fantasy-friendly outfit at the moment. And his job security is rock solid at this point in time. He's playing as that second midfielder behind the LDU. Yes, there is the concern of Wardlaw coming back in the next month or so, but I think that doesn't affect the likes of Will Power as much as we originally thought, with probably pushing out Phillips more than anything. So yeah, probably not too concerned there. But yeah, he just hits all stat lines. 27 touches, 7 marks, 8 tackles is a great stat line. To be able to hit 120s without hitting the score sheet is amazing. So he is a great pick for anyone that started him. lowly owned. So if you have the luxury and you don't have any other concerns in your team, I do recommend jumping on him because he could be a make it or break it season a player for you this season. Jordan Dawson, I don't think you're going there. Like I said, you're not paying up for these guys that are top price at the moment. Even though he probably does have some value, I just don't think you're going there this time of the year. Hunt for the value as best as possible. I'd probably even go with a Powell over a Dawson at the moment, just with the cash generation you're going to get with the points on field. Nathan Driscoll, as I said, very similar to a Nevitt. It's hard to toss up between those two because they both have very low break evens and both have good scoring ability. Yeah, it's just who you prefer more, who you want to have a look at here and there. I will say probably they both have great runs, so it's really hard to split for me. But yeah, definitely both great options. And that probably does it. I'll be honest, if you don't have any of the ex dog boys, definitely jump on them. Probably not paying up for Cherry at this point in time, unless you're really looking to fix up your ruck line for the year. But you are going to be set behind the competition for a while. So quickly summarizing my trade-in target. So I do have Levi Ashcroft as my number one target. Like I said, I think the scoring ability is there. The job security there is currently at the moment because of all the injuries that they have on field. Yeah, he's going to be one that you can put on field for you most weeks because he has that scoring ability. Xavier Lindsay falls in at number 2, just with the cash generation, as I've said. He's going to be a great option. And his job security looks pretty good, pretty solid on that wing out there. He's showing that he has a pretty good scoring ability, and he'll massively make good coin. Number 3, I have split it with SDK and Frazier. I think most teams have selected either one of them to start the team. If you started both, then absolutely amazing. Go there. Like you've got other areas in your team that you probably have to fix up rather than your defensive line. So definitely look at other areas I'd recommend. But yeah, if I had to choose one of selecting out of these two, I'm probably leaning to SDK. I like the role change rather than what Freya's been able to produce. I just don't like the not knowing what his role is going to be each and every week. Whereas I know what I'm going to get from an SDK playing this sort of 50% ruck role for now until they sort of bring someone else in, if that's even something that they're looking at doing. But yeah, I definitely think I'm looking at SDK there with a lower break even. I've got Rankin in there at number 4. I do think he's a huge trade-in target because, again, you're getting the additional benefit that he's going to be a keeper for the year. You can add the coin that he's going to add on top of his head, you probably 50, 60k, pushing that 900k cash bracket. And you're not having to waste a trade on him later on in the year unless he gets injured or something like that. So I definitely recommend jumping on him if you have the luxury. And I'll throw in a Max Hall in there at number 5. Just because, yeah, again, if you're in the luxury position that you've got all the other major rookies on your field already and you're just looking for a bit of a rookie fix-up, here's definitely one that falls in there pretty quickly. So definitely recommend that. I could probably throw in TDK in at 6th spot, but again, I think most people already have him there. If you don't have any of the Bulldogs boys, then yeah, they should probably be number 1, but I think 70% of the competition already have him, so I'm not putting him on this list. So that's my trading targets. Quickly, I'll go through what I'm looking at doing. I've already made my trades, but this could change depending on the team announcements come Thursday night. But I have traded out McIntosh to Lindsay, and I've gone Sam Taylor to Frazier, so just getting those points on field. I don't like trading out McIntosh because, again, he's probably going to make some coin, but I don't like the role he was playing being that tagger, which probably limits what his scoring ability could be, and he could definitely drop a pretty low score there. So I played it safe. I did look at trading out Will Day instead of him, but I just don't like the options that I had on the other side, having to trade Sam Taylor as well. I probably would have had to go up to the likes of a Tom Stewart or a top line guy, which I don't want to do at this time of year at the moment. So yeah, I just playing it safe, going with the numbers and going with Xavier Lindsay, who obviously I wanted to grab. He's my main priority, and going with the numbers with Freya and just riding that cash generation until he runs out of time. And this is sort of how we're going into the week. I will go through captain options tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this first episode of the trade mode and look forward to seeing many more throughout the year. Until then, Enjoy round 2, and hopefully your team kills it. And I'll catch you guys in a later video. Bye.